We continue now at the top of Daf Zayin Amud Aleph in Mesechet Nedarim. This is Nedarim Daf 7a. On the previous summit, the Gemara had asked, is there a din of yad when it comes to peya or not? Meaning, if you say the partial phrase, is that enough to say that you have designated something as peya, a part of the field as peya or not? And the question of the Gemara was, do we say that since peya is compared to karbonos, just like there's a yad for carbon, so too there's a yad for peya? Or no, maybe we say that the comparison is only in terms of bal ta'acher, that just like there's bal ta'acher, you can't delay in bringing your carbon, so too you can't delay in terms of peya. Maybe there's a din of bal ta'acher by peya, but we don't say it's a full comparison, and we don't say there's a din of yad by peya as well. And the Gemara wanted to know where exactly do we compare peya to carbon, and the Gemara now says me'imach. The pasuk says me'imach. The full pasuk is over here. Ki sidor neder la'Hashem Elokecha lo sa'acher l'shalmo. That's the pasuk of bal ta'acher. Don't delay in terms of karbonos. Ki darash yidrashenu Hashem Elokecha me'imach va'yavach chet. So me'imach. The Gemara says, what's me'imach? Ze leket shichu peya. That's a reference to leket shichu and peya. So there you see in that pasuk of bal ta'acher, about karbonos, you see a reference to peya. And the Gemara continues, Yesh yad l'tzedakah o ein yad l'tzedakah. Similar question, is there a din of yad when it comes to tzedakah, or is there no din of yad when it comes to tzedakah? Hey Chidami, what exactly is the case? What is the question? Ilay madamar hadein zuzah l'tzedakah v'hadein nami. If you say that the case is the person says, this zuz, this coin is going to tzedakah, and this one also, so that's not a yad. Hahu tzedakah atzmahi. That actually is tzedakah. You're clearly saying you want to give the second coin to tzedakah. Elikagon amar hadein v'lo amar nami. Rather, the question is, let's say the person says hadain and this, but he doesn't say and this also. So without the also, it's just a partial phrase. It's not clear. Mai hadain nami tzedakah kamer. What's the halacha? Is he saying this also is tzedakah? O dilma mai v'hadain lenafkusa bi'alma kamer. Maybe when he says v'hadain, he simply means that he's going to use this money to spend. I'm going to give this money to tzedakah, and this money I'm going to use for some other purpose. V'diburahu delo aske. He just didn't finish speaking. He didn't finish saying his entire statement. And so now the Gemara explains the question. Mi amrinan, do we say kevan de iskish lekarbonos? Since there is a comparison over here as well between tzedakah and karbonos, techsib beficha zu tzedakah, because the pasuk says beficha. This is near the other pasuk, the pasuk about bal ta'acher. The full pasuk is motzos vasecha tishmor v'yosisa kasher nadarta l'Hashem Elokecha nedava asher dibarta beficha. That which you promised, again you have to fulfill. And we understand beficha with your mouth is zu tzedakah. That refers to tzedakah. So we have a comparison over here between tzedakah and karbonos. Ma karbonos yeshul hen yad, af tzedakah yeshul yad. Just like by karbonos there's a halacha of yad, so too by tzedakah there's a halacha of yad. O dilmor maybe lebal ta'acher hu de iskish. Maybe the comparison is only in terms of bal ta'acher, but it is not a full comparison in terms of the halacha of yad. And the Gemara continues with another similar question. Yesh yad lehefker, o dilma ein yad lehefker. Is the din of yad when it comes to hefker? Let's say you want to declare something ownerless that is similar to tzedakah. Tzedakah, you're declaring it for the poor. By hefker, you're declaring it ownerless, that anyone can have it. So again, yesh yad lehefker, o dilma ein yad lehefker. Is there a din of yad by hefker or no din of yad by hefker? And the Gemara says, hainu tzedakah. That's exactly the same as tzedakah. Why would that be any different than tzedakah? And the Gemara explains, imtim salom kamer. What we're saying is, if you want to say over there, so then we have a secondary question, and the Gemara explains, imtim salom yesh yad tzedakah. If you're going to say there's a din of yad for tzedakah, the ein hekesh lemechza, because the comparison doesn't go halfway. Meaning, if we're comparing tzedakah to karbonos, it's going to be a full comparison. And just like there's a yad for karbonos, so too there's a yad for tzedakah. If you're going to assume that, so hefker, when it comes to hefker, mi amrinan hainu tzedakah. Do we say that hefker is the same as tzedakah? O dilmar, maybe shani tzedakah, maybe tzedakah is different. The tzedakah lo chazia elo la'aniyim, because tzedakah is only for the poor. Aval hefker bein li'aniyim, bein li'ashirim. But hefker is something that is for the poor and for the wealthy. And the Gemara continues, Boy Ravina. Ravina asks the following question, Yesh yad lebeis hakisei olo. Is there a din of yad when you designate an area as a beis hakisei? Let's say you have an area that you didn't use it as a bathroom, but you're designating it as a bathroom. Let's say you make a partial statement that it is being designated as a bathroom. Does that count as a beis hakisei or not? Hey Chidami, what exactly is the case? Ilaim, if it means to say as follows, the Amar Hadein beis lahave beis hakisei. Let's say he says this area should be a beis hakisei, should be a bathroom. V'hadein nami, in this area also. So again, the same thing. Ahu beis hakisei nami have it. That other room is also going to be a beis hakisei. It was clear that you designated. That's not even a case of yad. Elikagon damar v'hadein. Rather, the case is, for example, where he says v'hadein v'lo amar nami. He doesn't say the word also. So again, the same type of question. My hodain do amar v'hodain nami beis hakise. When he says hodain, does he mean to say that this is also a beis hakise? Or dilma mai v'hodain, or maybe what does it mean v'hodain? L'tashmisha bi'alma kamar. He's just saying this room will have other uses. It's not going to be a beis hakise. In any case, the Gemara says, Mechlal, this question of Ravina implies that Pshita Leila Ravina Diesh Zimun Lebeis HaKisei, that it's obvious to Ravina that there's an idea of designating an area as a Beis HaKisei. In other words, you can give an area the status of a Beis HaKisei, even if you don't actually use it as a Beis HaKisei. That seems obvious. The only question is, when you make a partial statement, is that a designation? But the problem is, V'hami Boi Leila Ravina, but that was a question to Ravina in another place. Ravina asked, Hizminu Lebeis HaKisei Mahu. What's the halach if you designate an area as a Beis HaKisei? What's the halach if you designate an area as a Beis HaMerchatz, as a bathhouse? Zimun moel, or ain zimun moel? Is zimun something that's effective, or is it not effective? Is the designation alone enough to render an area a Beis HaKisei with all the halachas that go along with an area being a Beis HaKisei? And so how could it be, if Ravina wasn't even sure if designation works, how is Ravina asking about yad? And the Gemara says, Ravina chada migo chada kamiboile. Ravina, it was one question within another question, meaning to say, zimun moel, or ain zimun moel? Does designation work, or does designation not work? And im tim salomar yesh zimun, if you're going to say that the designation does work, yesh yad o ein yad. So is there a concept of a partial statement that can designate or not? Tiboile, and the Gemara says we will leave that as a question. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. The Mishnah said, Menuda anilach v'chulu. So it says, what if a person uses a language of Menuda anilach, which is basically a language of saying, the person is saying, I'm ostracized from you, or I'm excommunicated from you. So is that the same thing as saying, I'm prohibited to take from your property? Is that the same idea as making a neder and prohibiting yourself from that other person's property? And the Mishnah said that Rabbi Akiva wasn't sure, but he said we should be machmir. So Amar Abaya says, Moder Rabbi Akiva le'inyan malchus she'eno loka. Rabbi Akiva, who's saying one should be machmir, admits that you wouldn't actually get malchus. In other words, it's just a chumrah it's just a stringency in this case that you should say that you are prohibited from that person's items, but it doesn't go so far as to say that if you would violate it, you would get malchus. Diyim Kain, because otherwise Nisni, Rabbi Akiva machmir, should have just said Rabbi Akiva is strict. The fact that it says chochech, that Rabbi Akiva wasn't sure but he's strict, that shows that he's being strict out of a doubt. And the Gemara now explains what the Mishnah meant. Amar Papa says, "B'nedina minach de kulial malo pligi de aser." If a person's language is nedina minach, that is certainly a language that means to say that the person is prohibiting himself, and that creates an iser. Mishamtana minach. Now let's say use a language of mishamtana, which is more a language of excommunication. L'kulial mashari. Then everybody agrees that's permitted. That's not a language of creating a prohibition. The person is not creating this prohibition from the other person's property. B'mai pligi. What exactly is the machlokas? What are they arguing about? Again, Nedina, everybody agrees is Aser. Mishamtana, everybody agrees is going to be Mutter. And what is the Machlokas? And we'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Zayin Amud Beis.